Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Georgie.
I am ready to record another episode of our sort of a podcast.
That's sort of a podcast.
Sort of a
I love
podcast.
it. I'm still digging the name. I'm happy.
I like it. I do. Every time I see it on Facebook, I'm like, sort of a podcast. That's great.
All right. We got two questions today. I'm pretty excited for them. The first, I'll get to a question, but first we'll talk about this concept of stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And so from a nutrition coaching standpoint, at the beginning, a lot of clients, I'll give you a specific example today. They're like, should I eat kiwi or grapes? What's better? And like in the most loving way, it doesn't actually matter at all. So what I want to talk about is like the fundamentals and how important it is for folks to dial in the fundamentals, the big pieces, before we worry about any of these sexy details that actually don't matter, whether it's kiwi or grapes, sweet potato or white potato, brown rice or white rice, or what color wrap you want to use, or any of those things. So since you wrote the seminal book on skill-based weight loss, Lean Habits, tell us your top two most fundamental skills that you would suggest people start with, and where they may start with each of those two things.
So did you tell them it doesn't really matter? Is that what you ended up telling them?
Yeah, in a more delicate way.
Don't worry about it. So yeah, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. It's so true. I think in general, the whole weight loss industry has a disproportionate focus of messaging on what you should eat and what you should avoid, and not so much on how much you should eat or why you're eating. So I typically suggest to people that focusing on what you eat is something that we can leave for later in the game. And we may never need to get there, because a lot of times if we just work on how much you're eating and the reasons that you're eating, weight problems can go away before we even get down to details of what. So to narrow it down to two specifically, I would definitely pick number one, feeling hunger before eating. In my book, and like my general weight loss recommendation is to feel hungry for 30 to 60 minutes before you start eating. So 30 to 60 minute window of feeling a stomach-centered physical sensation. I'm flexible on the timeline though. Like for some people, if they're daunted by it, we just inch up on it and we say like, let's just check the box that like I felt something of physical hunger, just check the box before I start eating. And then maybe for some people, we just do 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We don't want to traumatize anybody or make them super uncomfortable. So the main difference between that and where most people in the general population are is that for most people in the general population, their eating is not related to their internal signals at all. It's related to like the time of day, when my spouse makes dinner, when my lunch break is between clients. So just getting an internal system to guide food in here, food stops here. So that leads me to the second one, which would be eating just enough or stopping when you're satisfied. Again, a lot of times people are using external information such as this food is so good or I paid so much for it to judge how much of something to eat, and typically eating to excess above what their body needs. So eating to excess or eating far less than your body needs both end up backfiring in terms of weight gain, because if people eat less than their body needs, they often develop a really strong hunger, not to mention it's stressful, and so we get annoyed. So we can backswing into using too much restraint and then losing our restraint and having an overindulgence later in time. So I encourage people to try and not make either error. Don't try and eat less than satisfies you, and try not to eat more than you need to be satisfied so that there's extra. And so those would be, I think, the big two. And so those do kind of cover the how much and the why, because they cover, the portion obviously is going to be somewhat limited if you're stopping when you're satisfied. And then the why is really, why am I starting eating? Is it because my body needs fuel, or because I had a bad day and I don't want to actually tell my coworker that she bothered me? That sort of feeling avoidance thing. So I think those are my big two.
Awesome. Well, I just want to reiterate for our friends, you heard it here, that what you eat does not matter nearly as much as you think it does. And so hopefully that's some level of relief for people, that like if you focus on the how much and the why you're actually eating. Is it true hunger, or is there something else going on?
Yeah.
And like work through those things and build skills around those things. You got a lot more freedom around your food choices, and you don't have to be restricted to what we are led to believe, because we're all marketed that, you know, there are terrible foods that will cause you a painful death.
I usually ask people when they say like, should I eat X or Y? I say, which one do you like better?
Yeah,
That one.
that's the one you should choose.
Yeah, I would take the kiwis.
I do like some crispy green grapes though, or crunchy green grapes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to number 2.
All right.
So as coaches, we are trained to figure out and dig into a client's why before we get started, right? Or at the very beginning. We got to find the client's why, because that's their motivation to do the darn thing. And like, why do they actually want to lose weight? One of the lines that you said that stuck with me is like, well, why is this important to you? There's nothing inherently better about having less gravitational pull to the earth. So why do you want to lose weight? But we also know that many clients at the beginning, they don't have a clear why. They just like, they want to lose weight and like feel better. And it's not any more specific than that at the beginning. And it often like takes them going through the process and skill building to find out what their actual why is, based on like results and what they're experiencing in their life.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, how do you think about this? Do you need to actually uncover a client's why at the beginning to do meaningful work with them?
No,
and
I don't think so.
Worry about it if they don't have a why.
Right. I don't think you need it, as in like, well, I just can't start with you unless you know exactly what your rationale is for doing this. Do you need to have one? Yes, but nobody's going to come to you without one. So you don't have to identify exactly what it is or hit it on the head, because often, as you alluded to, it'll become apparent during the process. So all a person often knows when they are starting a journey, they don't know exactly where they want to get to. Like if I'm at A and I want to get to B, I don't know what B is. What I know is I don't want to be at A anymore. So that's really all you need. So no, I don't think you have to exactly figure out what B is or what created it and made it meaningful for them. You know, a lot of times it's enough to know, what is it about A you don't like? And let's work on getting you to not A. And that will by default put you in some other experiences and some other places. And then you can feel what is drawing you forward, what is motivating you, what has stopped motivating you when you allow yourself to not care what other people think, or, you know, kind of following your own intrinsic desires. Sometimes people are like, wow, I really thought I wanted this, but it's just not lighting me on fire anymore now that I've like kind of let go of doing what my parents wanted me to do. So yes, that's my final answer. They have a why. Don't worry if you can't figure out exactly what it is. Just work on getting them to not A.
Yes. Yeah. And we know, like, someone going through the journey is the magic, if journey is the right word, like the process of building skills, and like that's where the real value is, right? That's what sticks with them. And so that'll help connect with their why, instead of just like, I want to be fit. But
100%. Yeah. Like the person, if there were a way to like anesthetize somebody, put them on a diet, exercise them, and like wake them up in the fit body, they wouldn't have learned a lot. So they'd get the body, you know, they'd wake up, they'd be like, damn, looking good. But they're going to be so different from the person who has been like, you know, I learned how to manage my urges to take seconds. And I learned how to talk about what's going on instead of just stuffing it down and hiding in the other room. And I learned how to be okay with the fact that I'm going to be hungry for a few minutes here and there. And like that person who's going to end up with the same body is going to be so much more equipped, one, to keep it physically, to keep their results. This person like doesn't know how to drive the Porsche they've just been given, so they're going to wreck it. But they're also going to know so much more about themselves. Like why, it's great to just know why we do things. Like, why do I have the habit of overeating? Why do I have the habit of forgetting this convenient thing? And I think understanding our own motivations can lead to improving our self-esteem and liking ourselves and appreciating ourselves in so many ways. So yeah, I'm usually not in too much of a hurry. Clients are always in a hurry, but I think often the hurry wears off as they recognize that the journey's pretty darn great. So they're not just focused on the end point.
You nailed it, Georgie.
Well, thank you. I don't know if you hear the snoring, but my dog in the background has been like sawing wood over there. She's like,
I like her style.
it's pretty good. Yeah. It's time for the afternoon nap.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Catch you next time.
Till next time. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.